5 o'clock, August the 1st, Warsaw, Poland. My name is Werner Puchert, and this is Finding Frequency. So every year this time, we commemorate the start of the Warsaw Uprising. Now, I must admit, I'm no history buff. Even though I really loved the Second World War and knowing and reading more about it, my understanding is that at the time when the Nazis were losing ground against the Allies and, of course, the Russians on the east, and the Russians were moving into reclaimed territory that the Germans have taken, moving into what was Poland, intellectuals, people here, Polish people here in Warsaw decided to turn against their occupiers, which were the Germans at that stage, to try and reclaim Warsaw, to at least try and institute some form of government, some government that is instituted by the people of Poland. Therefore, they started the uprising. And then every year we celebrate that start of the uprising at 5 o'clock on the August the 1st. It's also a very touching celebration because at some stage here in the city, these air raid sirens go off and then everything, public transport, everything comes to a standstill. There's silence. Yes, there's a few flares going off and you hear these sirens blaring in the background. And I don't know, I know it's not my history per se, but I feel something every time I hear that. I feel something every time something comes to a standstill. I think it's because I also know what the outcome was of that uprising. I mean, ultimately, and sometimes controversially, when people speak about the uprising, some say it was a futile to start off with. So many people lost their lives, so many intellectuals lost their lives, and a whole city, Warsaw, was leveled because Hitler was furious when this happened and he ordered his troops to really level the city, which they did. And if you look at some of the photos of Warsaw after this incident, I know the uprising lasted for some time, but ultimately the city was flattened. And I think it left a scar on the Polish people. Not a bad one per se, because it just shows you that the Polish nation can weather anything and they are strong. And I think you feel that when you listen to those sirens going off every year. So it's always good for me to go out with Marta. And last year I got to go on my own because it was the first time I was working on my own and I had my own time and I got to spend that in Old Town. That was also very touching. And this year I got to spend it with Marta and my little boy. And it was the first year that he really understood what was going on. Of course, for him, it was a big experience in the sense of all the flares and the sirens and the action and the soldiers dressed up. But he got to see that and I think in some way appreciate it. We also didn't get to go into the city. So I have to say something about that. We didn't go into the city like we usually do because we wanted to avoid crowds. So we just went down the road here in our neighborhood. And surprisingly, as we were driving towards the city center, just a couple of blocks from us, we saw a whole bunch of people getting together in what looked like a safe way, got out, and it seemed it was like a company that got together with some of their employees, and they had a whole bunch of big balloons attached to a Polish flag with the Warsaw Uprising symbol on it, and they released it into the air. Had some flares, and then also a guy dressed in old Polish resistance gear. So there was like a real vibe around it, and I was really happy to experience that. It was so easy to say, no, we don't want to go, and we nearly did not. And in the end, we forced ourselves to go, and it left another memory in our archive of wonderful memories. Yeah, so a little bit of silence for people who've done amazing things. Even if it turned out to be futile in the end, at least they had a propensity for action. They wanted to do something. Never regret what you do. Rather regret what you don't do.